Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, I'm here interviewing Amanda and Justin, who are from the YouTube channel Entrepreneur Expat. And, Amanda emailed me not too long ago, and she found out that I was a Cuban living out here in Mexico. And we both had a little bit of a similar background, and we just struck up a conversation and struck up a friendship. And before you know it, here we are. We decided to let's do a video together, interview each other, and get to know each other better, but also introduce each other to our own audiences. And the reason I'm here with Amanda and Justin is because you already know what I do on this channel. I like to provide as much information for you guys as possible so you guys have the best possible transition to moving to Mexico that you can get. And one of the main things that a lot of you guys have trouble with, especially, us younger folk out there, is that you need to work. You need to have a job. You got to have a career. You got to make that money. You got to pay them bills. And so, that's why their channel and their information was, something that I had to introduce to my audience, to you guys. So without further ado, I don't want to waste too much time blabbing. You guys can, check out the rest of my channel for all that. Let's just get right into it, and let's just talk to both Amanda and Justin, and let them know, let them tell you about themselves and, how they can help you with their information on their channel and so on and so forth. So how you guys doing out there, Amanda and Justin? Welcome to the show.
Great. We're doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having us, Jose.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. When I found your channel, I think I told you the story where you had started off a video like, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? I'm like, this guy's either from New Jersey or the East Coast. Like, you can ask Justin. I was laughing so hard I was crying. And then I started watching more of your videos. I was like, oh my gosh, he's Cuban from Miami. That's why I'm like relating to this so much. I was like, I have to email this guy because they keep telling me that there's Cubans in Mexico. I haven't met a single one in Guadalajara, but I found one on YouTube. And then that's when I emailed you, and here we are.
All right, so let's get right into the interview and get into the questions. All right, Amanda and Justin. So you guys have told me that both you guys, just like me, are son of immigrants. So you guys were born in the USA, tried to live the American dream, do all that good stuff. And, you ended up out here in Mexico just like me. So can you tell me exactly, how you guys even ended up here? Why did you leave the USA? Why are you living out here in Mexico? I'm sure the audience would love to know, so go on ahead.
I think Justin can start there because he was actually here before I was. So he actually started this journey almost 10 years ago. You've been in and out of the U.S. for about 10 years. So you could probably do the first part and then pass the baton over.
So starting from the, very beginning, my foray into living the expat life, I actually spent some time in the border town Tijuana when I was a teenager. I was growing up. I spent a lot of time with actually my uncle and his family. He married my now aunt in Tijuana, and so when I went down there with them, I would stay for weeks or sometimes a couple months at a time, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. This is what Mexico's like, and not just the Cancun or something that I may have gone to before with my parents, but actually really living in Mexico. This is interesting, and it was always fun to come down here to explore, to just see how different people around the world live their lives, even when I was 14, 15 years old. Then I lived in the U.S. for a few years after that. I started my entrepreneurial journey around the time I was 18, and so at that point I was traveling a little bit, 18, 20 years old or so, going to Europe, going to Mexico, going to different islands, just for fun. And I think I was about 20 or 21 when I went on a vacation to Cabo San Lucas with a few friends of mine. And I guess maybe I was going through a little bit of a weird period in my life. My business was not exactly the business of my dreams. I almost wanted to get away to some extent, and I was just really not happy with my experience of being in the U.S., period. It just wasn't really that interesting. It wasn't that fun. I'm like, I know that there's greener pastures out there somewhere. So I was on vacation for about a week and a half with some friends in Cabo. And I told my friend, I'm like, hey, man, I think I'm just going to stay. And he looked at me. And what a good friend probably should have done was been like, no, you're crazy. Come on, get on the plane. Let's go. But instead, he's like, okay. So I just ended up staying down there for a while. And I think I didn't even leave for 4 or 5 months that first round, probably about until my tourist visa expired. I was like 20 years old or so, and just living the dream by the beach, living a few blocks away from the beach, working remotely. And then I guess reality set in. I went through some financial turmoil. I had to go back to the U.S., even though I really didn't. I just kind of thought I did. So I went back there and spent a couple more years in the U.S. before. This was maybe 6 years ago or so. Took another vacation. I was actually in between cities in the States as well. I was really trying to find my place. I grew up in California, so I grew up in the Bay Area. I lived in LA for a couple of years. I lived in Austin, Texas. I lived in Las Vegas. And when I was in Austin, I wanted to take a vacation to Colombia. I don't know if I told Amanda this, but I was dating a girl who was from Bogota, and I was going to go there to link up with her when she was back home. And
he was a passport bro before passport bros were a thing.
I guess you could say that. But so I had planned a trip to Colombia, and by that time we weren't really a thing anymore, me and this girl. And so I figured, you know what, like, screw it. I'm just going to go explore anyway. I've heard a lot about Colombia, some good, some bad, some in between, but this will be interesting. I thought it was a lot more dangerous than it actually was. Like, I was under the impression from Narcos and a lot of other shows, like what Latin America, what Colombia especially is going to be like. It wasn't like that at all. But I lived in mostly Medellin for about 3 years, as well as a little town called Armenia, which is in the coffee producing area of Colombia. And it was beautiful there. Very nice people, amazing food, although Mexican food, sorry guys, Mexican food is way better. But I was there. I was in Colombia, came back again to the US for a brief stint. I was back for less than a year before I moved to Tijuana, because it was the closest kind of hop from there. And then I realized Tijuana kind of sucks. Traveled around and then landed in Guadalajara, and then Amanda came down here to join me, which is a whole other separate storyline, but that's kind of the short version of how this all came to be.
I got a quick question for you. So basically, you left the USA when you were like 20. So how old are you now? Because you look very young. So
I'm 32.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah,
Is that right? I lost track. After 30, I stopped counting.
Same as me. I got to remind myself. It's like, all right, hold on. I got to do the math. All right, I'm 43. Yeah, there you go. So, that's really cool. Okay, so, you've basically done a lot of traveling already, and you were pretty much fully aware of what was out there. And every time you would come home, you realize, oh, this is not it, so...
My mom says it's because he's European on one side. So his mom's from Ukraine. So she's like, oh yeah, Europeans like just have it in their blood. They're like accustomed to traveling a lot. So my mom thinks that's why he's just kind of always been that way.
Could be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think too, a lot of it is just, because of your European background, I'm sure you are a little bit more familiar with a certain kind of lifestyle, and you see that lifestyle's out here in Mexico and how the people live out here. And so for you, it's like, this is a little bit more chill, more relaxed. I can live out here, So maybe that's just, from my experience talking to other Europeans, because I find that sometimes, people that have a little bit more of a European background, or Latino background, they have a lot easier time assimilating as opposed to, just straight up an American or a Canadian that's been there generation after generation. But that's really cool. That's interesting. Okay, so, all right, well, Amanda, how did you end up in Guadalajara? That's basically where Justin left us on the cliffhanger, right? So
yeah, so in a weird twist of fate, Justin and I ended up meeting a couple years ago. So my background is, like you, born to Cuban parents, born and raised in Miami, and I'd spent my 20s also trying to find a place. I actually ended up traveling through the United States a lot in my first business. And I basically saw every major city. I saw everything I wanted to see in the United States. And I was like, oh, after 5 days, everything's just kind of the same, unless you're like in New York or Miami or a very multicultural city. So I just kind of like vagabonded. And then Miami was kind of like the home base because that's where my family was. And I just didn't find a place in the United States where I could be like, oh, I can get the culture, the food, unless I'm in New York. But then New York comes with its set of problems and taxes and all that stuff. So Miami was just kind of my home base for a while. And I always had this idea that I would be living in other countries or traveling, even when the outside looked like there was no way in hell that was happening. On the inside, I was like, nope, this is a dream of mine. This is something I want to do. So I'd started, online business with the idea of I'm not going to be in one place, or I'm going to be traveling a lot. I want the option to be location independent. And fast forward, I'm on my second business, and this is where Justin and I end up meeting a couple years ago. And I had built this like overcomplicated business with the idea of I'm going to go overseas. Funny story, I was booking like scouting trips to Medellin and Mexico City while he was living in Medellin, and we didn't know each other yet. And I ended up not being able to go on any of those trips because of COVID, because of family health crisis and emergencies. And then on top of that, the business that I had built, similar to what Justin went through when he was in his early 20s, I was like, this is a nightmare. I need to like redo this, because what I had done is I had mistakenly made it super overcomplicated, thinking that that was going to make it easier for me to move overseas. I was like, I need to have employees and they need to be running everything in this, because I plan on just running around all over the world. I don't plan on doing the hustle culture 80 hours a week thing. And in trying to figure out what that looked like, I ended up doing the hustle culture 80 hours a week thing. And I got to a point where my father was very ill. He was in and out of the hospital for about 8 months. He's fine now. It's actually one of the reasons I couldn't go to Colombia, because he got scheduled for surgery when I was supposed to go on that trip. And I basically really just started reevaluating my life, because I was like, I don't like this business. I'm nowhere closer to living in other countries. This business has consumed my entire life while my father is ill, and I just need to redo life. I need a do-over. And I started working with some mentors during that time, and those mentors were helping me kind of like restructure my business that I had at the time before we met. And they're like, hey, why don't you go work with like referral partners? Why don't you partner up with other people, and then they send you business, and then you don't have to work as hard, while your family's going through this stuff. And I was like, okay. End up joining a networking group. And in that networking group, and this was like 2 years ago now, I meet Justin. I did something completely crazy where I joined the networking group, and I booked like 50 meetings in 2 days. Apparently I was the only person who had done that in the group. So I had a little claim to fame. And you're actually going to really appreciate this, Jose.
Yeah, I'm laughing because it's like, I think there's like a Cuban thing in us too. You know what I mean? It's like, we go hard, right?
Yeah, we go really hard. Wait until you see what Justin told me first, right? So I meet Justin. He's one of those meetings. I have no idea how to do this referral partner thing. Apparently we had both just kind of joined at the same time. And then you want to know what the first thing he said to me was? He's like, oh, where are you at? Oh, I'm in Miami. He's like, I'm in Mexico. Pleasantries starts as a networking call kind of a thing. And he's like, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then somehow I mentioned I was drinking Cuban coffee, and he's like, what are you drinking? I'm like, oh, Cuban coffee. I'm Cuban, whatever. I'm in Miami. And he says, oh, so I can say this to you. Communism sucks.
Yeah, I think we can all agree there, right?
And then he goes, my mom's from Ukraine, and it went into that whole thing. I think we were friends for about 6 months, and then work colleagues. He was helping me with some work things here and there, and then we end up falling in love, and now we're getting married, and it's a whole thing. And he was in Mexico, and I was in Miami, so we had a bit of a problem in terms of how are we going to have this relationship. We're living in 2 different countries. My family was doing the typical Latino thing and best friends, which they were acting like FBI agents, looking this guy up online and all that kind of stuff, trying to dig up whatever dirt they could. He ends up coming to Miami. Poor guy meets everybody in about a week. Mom, dad, brother, best friends from elementary school, her husband, other friend, like he just met everybody in like a 1 week period. And then 10 days later, I came to meet up with him in Mexico, and we honestly just didn't even know where we were going to live. At that point, the only thing I knew was, and this is important because we hear this from people in our community all the time, I don't know if you hear this, we were on the same page as a couple always about living in other countries and living it overseas. Like, it was a shared goal that we had. We had those goals as individuals, and then we just came together on that goal. So that was never an issue. The issue was, where are we going to live? So I ended up in Mexico about a year ago. It was initially supposed to be a 6-week trip. I came with a suitcase and a half. And after spending some time here, and it was a little chaotic while we were traveling around a lot, trying to figure out where we were going to just stay for a while, I realized, why on earth would I go back? It's cost of living is far more accessible here. I can have a really good life. To your point about Latinos and Europeans, like, quality of life is really important to us. It has its pros and cons, but that's always been something that we're seeking, because we have that we have that perspective from our culture. So I was like, I get that here. I speak Spanish. I don't have to have a panic attack about healthcare. And while I rebuild my business and rebuild my life, it just makes a lot more sense to do it here. And then since then, we've seen a lot of what's going on in the United States, and we're like, yeah, good decision. Because he was the one who was really pushing me, and he's like, look, there's some stuff going down. This is going to get worse. I think we really need to take this very seriously, and Mexico's our first stop.
Yeah. And at this point, the way I see it is like, what's the worst that can happen? Meaning, I mean, what do you got to lose? In moving out here and just, again, having a better quality of life, a better life. You're still connected to basically your family, your friends. You get to work. All these things are still active. So. That's the thing. For a lot of people, they're very hesitant, as you know, in making these moves. They're always making excuses for whatever reason. Sometimes they're valid, sometimes they're not. And we've gone through it. But once you're out here, once you actually leave and pop that bubble and you go and live abroad. Both of you guys did the same thing I did. You got here and you didn't want to leave. You're basically like, all right, bye plane, bye, see you later, and you just stayed here. So. Yeah, that's
well. Amanda really went through it too, though. Like, before she decided to come out here. Remember tell them the story about the first time. I was like, okay, come to Mexico. That was before I met your parents and everything. Tell them about what happened there, and then how I actually had to not convince you, but how you ended up convincing yourself, I guess, to.
I think in true typical Latino fashion, and Jose knows this, and so does Justin, now living in Latin America as long as he has, and now engaged to a Cuban woman, and having dated Latin women before me. We're very attached to our families, and our families are very attached to us. So for me, honestly, the most difficult part was just having that separation with family. My parents are actually coming to visit for the first time next week, which is like a miracle in and of itself, because then they don't want to leave my grandmother, because that whole we're very, very tight and very, very close, and it's difficult for us to separate. That was really the hardest part. I mean, at first my parents threw a couple fits. Now they're fine with it. They're okay. Justin's family, everybody's getting married. They're coming to help us plan the wedding next week and spend some time with us. Now everything's fine. But in the beginning, it was very jarring because of those really tight bonds that Latinos have with their families. So like, logically, it's like, yeah, we know people in Mexico are fine. Logically, we know there's other options out there besides the United States. I think we also have perspectives where we see what's going on in the United States right now. We're like, well, hold up a second. We might need some plan Bs or Cs or whatever, because we've seen this stuff before. So even though logically, like, my family understood all that, it was still those emotional bonds that were very, very difficult. So in the beginning, it was a little intense.
But yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, the same thing with me. I mean, I lived all over the USA, and it was no way, you know what I mean? Like, when I lived in Seattle, LA, whatever, no way did anyone go visit me out there. They're like, oh yeah, poor Jose, he left the plantation. He left, he's all the way out there somewhere, hopefully he's okay. But ever since I've been living in Mexico, oh my God, you know what I mean? My family comes to visit me all the time. Like, it might as well be like this living in Broward County, close to Miami, because they come out here all the time. Then now it's like, oh, great. You know what I mean? Like, now they have an excuse to come out to Mexico and enjoy Mexico because, well, Jose is already there. He's going to, help us and guide us and this and that. And, but yeah, long story short, it's made it a lot easier even for family to come visit. You'll see when your family comes to visit for the first time, how it's a lot easier for them, to come visit, because again, the language, the culture, so many other things. But then once they're actually here, they're going to be put at ease. In fact, they're going to start seeing, oh, wait a minute, they're actually better off here. We might be better off here than staying back in the USA, because I got cousins, I got all kinds of family as well back home where they thought I was crazy until they came out to visit, and now they're like, all right, maybe we should start planning doing something similar before it's too late.
Yeah, no, I kind of suspect that's going to happen. It's already kind of in the back of my head. I'm like, my parents might be making some retirement moves they don't know about yet. But
that's what I thought when they said they were coming. I'm like, they're for sure going to think about moving down here too when they visit.
Yeah, 100%. And so let's get into a little bit about what you were saying about the business and how you guys met and all that stuff. So real quick, what is your channel all about, and how can you help the audience out there? Not just my audience, but any audience, anyone that's looking into moving to Mexico, and again, they need to figure out, how they're going to make some money. Some people already have a small business. Some people are already entrepreneurs back in the USA, Canada, whatever, but they have no idea how they can integrate that lifestyle or bring all that out here. Because remember, you guys talk about it on your channel a lot. There's all kinds of people that come from all kinds of industries. And a lot of times people are like, well, there's no way I can do that abroad. I have to be in the USA. I have to be here. But on your channel, you talk a lot about how you can actually do it. Like I myself have done it multiple times. I'm entrepreneur as well. Serial entrepreneur. But for me, it's a little harder, to help guide people with these things. I'm more of a, motivational kind of guy or inspirational guy, or I show them through, other things or, other ways, to come out here. But when it comes to, basically someone that has a successful career, successful business over there in the USA, and they want to just leave, but they can't, because they're afraid of, their income, how they're going to support the family, how they're going to pay the bills and all those other stuff. So can you tell us a little bit more about everything, about what you guys do on your end? Because I know all the people in the audience are definitely interested to hear about that.
Absolutely. So I would say the one thing that we specialize in the most is helping people actually have a plan when they come down here, specifically, like you mentioned, Jose, around how are we actually going to sustain ourselves. Amanda and I are kind of lucky in the sense, or maybe, we also just worked our asses off, but we're lucky in the sense that what we did for work as a career was almost always based online, nearly from the beginning. Like I did have a couple corporate jobs in IT and software development and things like that way, way, way back when I was 16, 17 years old, just finishing high school. Actually, I didn't finish high school, which is a whole other story, but when I would have been finishing, I tested out. But I haven't had a real quote-unquote job really since 18 or so, when I started my business. And so everything that I've really done in business, even though at the beginning I had to be in person and go to networking events and meet people that way and shake hands and all that, very quickly it converted into a model that could easily be done online. And I thought when I first started moving overseas, I'm like, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to network remotely? And of course, the pandemic sped that up a lot because everything now became remote, including Chamber of Commerce meetings and all these other events online that didn't exist before. So that kind of fueled it a little bit. We're actually going to drop a guide later on in this video, and probably we'll have it in the notes down below too, where we talk about the specific ways, whether you're coming from a career, whether you're coming from maybe a business that's in person, or whether you already have something but want to grow it so that you can generate leads online. We have a guide talking about that specifically. It's our Make Money From Anywhere guide. We'll talk about that later.
So real quick, I just want to interrupt real quick. So is that part of what you guys do as well? Do you guys have like a business where you help other people? Is that kind of like what you do, or as well?
So our main business is no, not at all. Our main business is actually specifically helping people grow businesses that they can run from anywhere. A lot of our clients are accountants and lawyers, and I've worked with the founders of Barefoot Wine on their expert business, where they're teaching people how to do what they did with the brand. I've worked with, and Amanda has worked with a lot of similar businesses as well. She started out in finance, and she worked with people like Equifax and TransUnion and a lot of the big players, and did media for them around the country. So we've worked with a lot of the traditional businesses in helping them build the online component of their business, and then we've also worked with many of the individuals, like the solopreneurs, the consultants, the experts, the speakers, coaches, all those people, and help them enhance what they were doing online. Now with this channel, with Entrepreneur Expat, we're also talking about how to combine that with the leverage that you get from all the arbitrage moving overseas. So you can have a business that's got a lot more free cash flow that you can actually reinvest and run ads and have more free time to actually do what you love to do. So you're not just constantly working in the business to make more money to pay for a lifestyle in the US that you don't even like. That's kind of the direction that it's taking. And it just happened to do that because we launched this channel just a few short months ago, and already it's taken off like crazy. Just because of how bad things are getting in the West, and people really need to figure out a plan B, and so we focus on the financial and the making money and the how do you actually build a real sustainable business that doesn't take you 80 hours a week to run, that you can really run from anywhere in any time zone and have a constant stream of leads, in many cases for free, that fills your pipeline, and also how to close those people on your programs. So it's kind of the 360 around remote business setup, management, marketing, sales.
Yeah. So
like
I mean,
I don't know, Amanda, if you have.
So I mean, again, I get asked a lot of questions all the time about moving out here to Mexico, and one of the main concerns people always have is the income. And a lot of people, they don't know. They just think, oh, I'm going to come to Mexico and get a job. Like, no, that's not. It's
not going to work.
Not quite how that works here. Yeah.
I mean, there are jobs, high level, high skilled jobs available, but you're going to do a little bit of work and digging to find those, and but that's like a whole other animal. At the end of the day, a lot of people do have the ability to become an entrepreneur, to become their own boss, to really be able to leverage, like, again, that ability to be able to, again, have as much freedom as possible. And in many cases, in most cases, do what they love, which is, something that's, most people don't do what they love, most people are stuck in that, that job they hate or that career they hate. And, I'm always telling people, when people ask me, about these things, I always kind of give them a little loose guide, but I don't have all the tools that you guys have and all the experience that you guys have really helping people, transition over to the other thing. Because to me, it's just, I always just tell them, oh, you just got to do it, go online and just figure it out and do it. But it's easier said than done. You know what I mean? Like, do what? And so you guys are there to, show them what it is they actually need to do for their, specific career, right? Specific situation, and so on and so forth. For me, I love to talk. It wasn't really that hard, start a YouTube channel, start talking, whatever. But not everybody, has a skill like that. When I was a chef, think about it, how was I going to transition from, that to something else where I could have done abroad? If it wasn't for the YouTube channel, I would have done other things. I could have become a private chef. I could have this, I could have that. But that's the thing. A lot of people just don't know they have all these options available with the already skill set that they have. And so you guys help them with, right?
And a big part of it is mindset.
Right. Yes. 100%.
Believing that you actually can and seeing the options in front of you instead of just being confined to that employee mindset of, oh, I just have to do some type of job from somewhere. You don't necessarily have to do that. I know Amanda actually helped me learn this. She can speak to this a little bit about how you can translate those skills into something else that lets you make money from anywhere. It doesn't have to be something like a fixed job, right?
Yeah, one of the things that, and this is kind of, we didn't expect this to happen in a way, like we kind of did, but we didn't, because Entrepreneur Expat, the channel started because when I moved, I already had quite a big social media following from my previous businesses, and people just started sending me all kinds of Facebook messages like, oh my gosh, can you tell us more? I'm interested. I'm seriously considering it. How does residency work? Bank accounts, all this stuff. And I went to him. I'm like, hey, babe, I think there's something here because I can't, we got to work. I can't be in these messages all day answering all these questions for people. I didn't expect them to respond the way that they were responding. And Justin will tell you, I'm a huge fan of leverage and not having to repeat myself more than once. So I was like, why don't we start a YouTube channel answering all these questions? And then when somebody asks us the question, we just, send them the video. We already answered it. So that's kind of how it started. And then as we kind of kept going, we're like, no, wait a second. This can actually bring us business for the parts of the business where we're actually teaching people marketing, sales, business operations, the things that people actually really need to understand in order to build something that's sustainable that they can run from anywhere in the world. So it's interesting because we didn't expect it to start generating sales so quick. Like we knew we were onto something, but it wasn't even just the attention, it was also the sales that it started to generate. And some of the sales that it started to generate is sometimes it's Americans who are like, hey, I just got laid off. I've got my severance. I already got my permanent residency. I'm moving to Mexico in 6 months. I got to figure out how to make money from online. You guys are the ones to do it. And sometimes it's people who are already in Mexico. They're already expats, they're already here, and they're like, okay, things have gotten more expensive because inflation's up all over the world. It just is what it is. Or, for example, we're talking to a client now who's been doing a lot of web development stuff, and she's like, well, I'm already thinking about, residency number 2 and 3, which means I need to pick up the pace with the traveling, which means I need to restructure my business model so that I can take it with me, essentially. And I don't have to worry about time zones and all that kind of stuff. So we've got quite a group of people, starting off with I'm leaving to I'm already gone and I need to make some adjustments so that I can continue, living this particular lifestyle. And one thing that's really rare about us, it's very rare to find the combination that we have where we each have 15 years of experience before we even met each other. And not only do we have 15 years of experience, we have it in different areas of business. He's fantastic at tech and operations and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm more on the marketing, sales, PR side of things. So to find that combination together is extraordinarily difficult. And we realized, okay, we've got something pretty special here because, not only do we complement each other really well in business, but we're able to give our clients that holistic view of things. And as one of our clients recently said, you guys understand what it's like to run businesses from other countries. Anybody could teach you how to make money online. Not everybody can teach you how to do that while living overseas.
Right. And not just that, but as you said, you guys have both individually 15 years of experience in this new world that we're living in now, which is the online world. Because, a lot of people, again, even what you said, I can teach people how to make money physically, just like the traditional way, regular business, all that stuff. But when it comes to, what you guys do, it's a lot more difficult because it's like you really have to be in that world. Again, I've seen some of your videos. You guys emphasize talking about, the marketing aspect of things, the advertising. And a lot of people just don't understand these things. Sometimes it's as simple as, for example, I'm doing a YouTube video and I'm just reminding people, hey, watch this video, or hey, go to my website. That's it. That's the advertising. That's the, but a lot of people, they shy away from that. I shied away from that for a long time because thinking is like, hey, I just want to make these videos. I'm here to, educate people. I don't want them to be turned off, by thinking I'm selling them something or guiding, which I wasn't, but it was just, even just plugging yourself or plugging what you already do is difficult for a lot of people. Not everybody, you, especially you, Amanda. I know you're like a born salesperson, so for you, it's a lot easier. And look, trust me, again, as a Cuban, I got people in my family that can sell, refrigerators to penguins, right? All that stuff. But for me, I got the gift of gab, but not necessarily the gift of sales. I'm not a salesperson per se. Again, I was just better suited for a kitchen, but I was able to translate those skills into something. And that's what you do. You really, again, so what you guys do basically is you interview people, you consult with people, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. This is actually a perfect example of a recent client of ours who sold insurance and financial products in the United States. And he and his wife moved to Mexico. They're in Cozumel. And, they've got savings to get them through, but then they're like, whoa, we got to figure out how to make money online. Now, here's the problem. He was in an industry that's very heavily regulated in the United States. He would not, even though he ran like his own franchise per se of a well-known insurance company, he needs to be physically in the United States in order to do that because of regulation. So we met with him and we're like, okay, great. Well, you have all this experience in insurance sales and financial products. Instead of selling the financial products, because you can't do that anymore because we'd be breaking the law here if we did that, well, how about instead you start teaching people in that industry who are still in the United States how you created the successful franchise, how do you do the sales, how do you do the networking, because then you're no longer tied to all that regulation because you're not the one selling the financial products, and then you can still have clients in the United States get paid in dollars and then do the geo arbitrage thing that they're interested in doing, which is, get paid in dollars, live in pesos, which is one of the ultimate life hacks.
But yeah, like you said, again, you're teaching people, how they can, again, be consultants themselves. That's another thing too. We're living in a brand new world, and consulting used to be kind of like, a bad word, or, it's like, oh, here come the consultants. Remember like in Office Space, they came in there to, but like consulting is something completely different these days. Now, consulting has become kind of like the new gold, or the new, what is it, like heavily sought after skill or knowledge, because again, now people can just basically pay someone, they can pay me. I mean, they paid me, to teach them how to cook, for crying out loud. But anyways, they pay somebody to get those skills, or to get this knowledge, that they wouldn't even know that they had. And sometimes it's just basically, hey, why don't you just teach them what you already know? And so, yeah, that might not be a good skill to necessarily have, or a good job in the USA per se. But maybe in once you leave the country and now you are, working online and talking to all kinds of people, this is something that's very, very, translates very well, because now you're teaching all kinds of people that might not have any idea about these skills. Like in Mexico, you can teach Mexicans, whatever it is, but teach people all over the world these skills, or whatever skills they are, in order for them to, again, maximize, what they're doing on their end in their country, wherever they are at.
Yeah, and it's kind of the holy grail, right? The consulting. Like, I just looked up this stat to double check. But the online learning industry, for example, is projected at 58.45 billion in 2024, because after the pandemic, everybody started moving into e-learning. To your point, why would you waste your time when you could just pay someone who already knows how to do it? And Justin's talked about it on this channel. It's basically the holy grail business model. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because if you're in consulting, it's more easily scalable, and you have leverage, and you're more easily able to run all over the world if you want to.
Yeah, I think the distinction is really between what you might call the traditional consulting model, where you're going into an office, for example, and instead of being an employee, and I think that's maybe what you were referring to, where you go and you say, okay, instead of working and making $30, $40, $50 an hour as an employee, I'm going to charge $150 or $200 as a consultant, and go into businesses and sit in their boardrooms and do it. And I've done all that stuff. I've worked it.
I mean, look, I used to do it in the kitchens, after, towards the end of my kitchen career. I used to be a chef or a kitchen, restaurant consultant. I used to go in there and turn restaurants around that weren't making money.
Like Gordon Ramsay.
Basically. Yeah. I mean, and that's what I used to do, is just teach them, hey, look, this is what you got to do. You're doing this wrong. Do this. Da-da-da-da. That's it. But teaching has become a giant, thing these days, because we can't find really good education out there for the things that we need for
Also
today's
that.
world. Yeah. And
The problem is there's too much information out
that
there.
too. That too. Yeah.
That's why tools like ChatGPT are becoming so popular, because they synthesize all these different elements of all of the information that you can find online, and they give you a really direct answer. Now, ChatGPT is not always 100% accurate. I've learned that the hard way, trying to use it to help me program some servers and build software in the past. Sometimes it does work, though. I would say it works the majority of the time. But when you have someone like Amanda and myself on your team, like we do in our masterminds, our group programs, we do very little one-on-one work nowadays. The only clients we work with one-on-one at all are typically paying us $15K or more for a VIP day, or they're basically giving us equity in their businesses to work with them on a one-on-one level. But in our group programs, not only do we give people the information, but we actually take them through the process so that they can understand what are their unique skill sets that are the basically the highest leverage skills that they have. And then how do they convert those skill sets into a business where they don't have to be running around like chickens with their heads cut off all the time. And they can, I don't want to say set it and forget it, because there's so much crap out there where they're like, oh, you just, buy this Bitcoin or do this thing or do that thing, and then instantly you're going to be a millionaire overnight and you don't have to do anything. Like, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah,
I
learned a long time ago. There's no such thing as just like, was it that residual income or what is it? What's that called? Yeah, residual income.
Passive income.
Passive income.
Passive
Yeah, where you just
yeah.
like set it and forget it, and you just get money. No. Listen, you always got to put some work into it. At the very least, keep an eye on it, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the difference, right? So what we were doing, in fact, I'll give you a quick version of my story. Before I met Amanda, I was doing a lot of the one-on-one work. I was actually a service provider. So even though I would charge a substantial amount of money, in some cases 4 or 5 figures per project, in some cases even more, I had clients that paid me almost 6 figures a year to work with them. But not only was it not as fulfilling as I would have liked, because it's like this weird relationship where they're constantly wanting you to fix everything that's wrong in their lives and their businesses, and they hold you responsible for it. It's like, no, I can tell you what to do, like I can help you build the stuff, but unless you actually run with it after the fact, it's not going to work. And so I had a lot of those experiences where I was burning out, I was working way too many hours, doing the one-on-one work. There's just no way to scale one-on-one, even if you're charging $200, $300, $400, $500 an hour. And so after that, I transitioned it to like a project basis, and it's based on this specific type of outcome that we're generating. And even then, I was like, wait, no, I really want to work on more of the transformational aspect, essentially, like working with people more directly and helping them move those rocks out of their way instead of having to do it for them. It's like teach a man to fish versus bring all the fish to them. We're actually teaching people how to fish and teaching them how to build models that are scalable and that don't lead to burnout. That's really the key. Because what's the point of being able to live in another country like Mexico, where you can explore and go to the ruins and the pyramids and the beaches and everything else, when you only have an hour and a half free every month? Like that doesn't make sense. I mean, we take, what would you say, Amanda, on average, like at least a week off every month total, every 2 months?
To give you an idea, and this is what we teach our clients, we do most of the stuff that we teach is already on video or pre-built. We teach our clients how to do the same thing. We have specific systems and processes that we teach. And then, we market on YouTube. That gives us leads. And then 80 to 90% of the rest of it is completely automated. So to your point, like, we worked our asses off. It's just the work was up front, rather than working all the time. As one of my mentors once said, work hard once instead of working hard forever. And that's a huge difference. So because we did that, one of our closest friends, who actually I did an email introduction, she was like, hey, so my work schedule got completely moved around and I can be in Mexico on Sunday and stay with you guys. We took the whole week off to show her around Guadalajara and all that kind of stuff. And that was on short notice. My parents are going to be here in a couple weeks. We're probably going to do the same thing because, of course, we're going to take them to Chapala. We're going to take them to, El Centro. We're going to, we have to do all the tour guide things, while we have guests in town and spending time with friends and family. And because of the way that we built the business, which is where everybody makes the mistake, a lot of people will teach you, oh, here, make money online so you can live anywhere in the world, but they're just teaching you to trade time for money. They're not teaching you how to run an actual business that is still doing things whether you are working or not.
Yeah, and
And that's the difference.
Yeah, that's extremely important, because that's the thing. A lot of people, they just don't know how to separate one from the other, and they just think it's just work. It's like, no, listen. You're coming out here for quality of life. So, like you said, if you, again, my friend comes over and says, hey, you guys want to go to the beach? I'm like, yeah, let me finish this interview and I'll catch up with you guys and we'll go to the beach. That kind of freedom, that allows, that is allowed and is brought to you by living out here in this country. But again, taking control of your finances, taking control of, what you do for a living, and setting a lot of these things up. Again, putting that work in at the beginning and setting yourself up so you're not repeating yourself. You're not constantly, just doing the same thing over and over again. Same thing happens with me. I got to answer the same question over and over again. So I have some things that are automated, so that just makes it easier for me, so I can continue helping, everyone else at the same time. But yeah, it's a lot of work that people have to do at the beginning, at the front end of things, in order to set themselves up. And like you guys were saying earlier, you guys mentioned that you guys got lucky. No. I don't believe in that luck stuff. You know what I mean? It's all about putting that work in. You put in that work, and then that luck, comes with it. You know what I mean?
It just so happens that they coincided with, we're building something, and then we end up moving overseas, and it's a perfect fit. But you're right. It's all about putting the work in advance.
Yeah, I mean, we joked with one of our clients. We're like, yeah, it took us 15 years each to figure out what we're now helping you guys do in one.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, look, how you guys, basically are teaching people, so that they can, do things on their own. That's what I try to do too on my channel, because again, it's a very daunting task. Remember, getting a job, having income is just one of the things. There are many things involved in moving to Mexico, moving anywhere, as you guys already know. You guys have moved out here.
I was just gonna bring that up. There's also the practical side of things, right? So yes, there's this whole side of things where you want the business to be sustainable and running and doing as much of as possible without you. We're also big on lean teams, so that there's just less people management and all that stuff, which is why the consulting and the course model is so great, because it allows for all of that. But to your point, I was just telling you this before we got on. I spent all day yesterday in the morning in the tax office, and then 2 hours to go open a bank account. Like, this stuff happens when you're moving to other countries. It's relatively easy, right? But it's also not easy, which is the joke that all the expats have. Everything's easy and not easy at the same time. It takes work. 3 years ago, if something like that happened, particularly in the United States, I would, for two reasons. Number one, because of cost of living in the United States, but number two, because of how I had my business set up, I would have been panicking, because I'm like, oh my God, I just lost a full day of work. Right now, I'm just like, I expect to lose a full day of work handling all of these things. And it's okay, because YouTube, it's doing its thing. The automations are doing its thing. Justin and I make a really good team. Eventually, of course, we're going to expand it. But, we make a really good team. So it's all these foundational pieces that we put in place from 15 years of learning things the hard way. Because when you move to another country, and we tell people that, there is all this administrative stuff. I had help moving to Mexico. I had Justin, I had my fiance right, helping me, and it was still chaos. And I speak Spanish, and it was still, and I understand the culture, and it was still chaotic and still very disruptive.
We had to rewire an entire house after we had to rewire this whole house too when we moved in. We were out of commission for a month, 2 months. We went 6 months, maybe working at 20%, if that, because there was so much going on around us to help Amanda transition over here and to set everything up and get the infrastructure going. And somehow we still managed to actually not just sustain, but grow the business.
Yeah, and it forced us into a lot of the stuff that we learn now. So even just from a practical perspective, it also depends on people's lifestyles. That client who's already thinking about residency number 2 and number 3, which means she needs to be traveling around like a ping pong. She can't be doing her current business model, even though it's online, if that's what she desires to do, and she knows that, which is why she's hiring us. Or even, and we have this conversation all the time, I'm sure you do too, income requirements to get residency. How are you going to prove that you have the money in order to get the residency?
Mm-hmm. People think you can just come down here on a plane and just stay.
Well, kind of, sort of. We did, right? So, but look, those are the things that I like to talk about on the channel. It's like, hey, there are many options, but at the end of the day, it takes time and it takes effort. Let's say you don't meet the income requirements. You can still get your residency. It's just going to take longer. It's just probably going to, you're going to have to go through more steps. You might have to, again, deal with some other things that, someone that can just, basically go to a consulate and buy their way in and get it. It is what it is. There are many things that can overwhelm someone out there, and knowledge is power. Okay, we've learned this, since G.I. Joe days, right? It's knowing is half the power, right, or something like that. But yeah, it's all about knowledge. And so, whether it's through your channel or my channel or, other information out there, it's about people having the right knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge, as you said, there's a lot of info out there. It could be overwhelming. You don't know what's right, what's wrong. But at the end of the day, you're not going to really know. People are not going to really know until they're out here, and they have to set up, properly. They can't just come out here, like you said. Yes, ideally, in a sense, it would be nice to just come out here and set up shop, move, do the whole thing, and everything's going to go smoothly. but it doesn't. I mean, again, if it doesn't go smoothly when you're just moving across town, right? And your U-Haul. I mean, imagine moving to another country and having to deal with all that. But it's all about knowledge, meaning the more information you have, the better decisions you can make going forward, and the less overwhelmed you can you'll be, because, well, you already know certain answers, you already know certain information, and even if you're hiring somebody or someone is helping you out with XYZ, well, you kind of already know how it's supposed to go. So if they're not doing a right job, you don't have to panic or just, put all your eggs in one basket, or just hope and pray that they're going to do a right job. If they're not doing a right job, you can get rid of them and get somebody else, or even do it yourself. But at the end of the day, it's all about that knowledge. And that knowledge, I think helps build the confidence, that the people really do need in order to make this, all this happen. Because again, as you know, for us that we're younger, the challenge is not just making money, but also things like even residency. Because again, once you're older and you're retired, it's a lot easier to get your residency as opposed to people like us. They're a lot more strict, at a consulate, when it comes to like income requirements when you're young, because they're like, no, well, wait a minute. We got to make sure that they're making enough money. We don't want these people coming out here and taking jobs away, or whatever it is. And so that's the thing. It's always like, depending on the individual.
Yeah, ironically, Mexico thinks that way, but that's
but but at the end of,
for another time.
Right, correct. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like every individual is different. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're just trying to help all those individuals out there as best as we can. And I'm glad that you guys do those. What did you do? Like the classes, right? Like where you help with a lot of people at one time, and that's really, really helpful, because I'm sure people can bounce things off each other, right? When they're in those classes, or. Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's one of the values of it, because it's basically a mastermind model. And what's really unique about us is, because of our work experience, we have people coming from so many different industries. So then they have different perspectives to things, and then they end up helping each other a lot of the time. Or we have clients who end up hiring each other to fix specific problems, for example. So there's this really great collaborative piece of it. And then people also feel like they're not doing it alone, like they're not in some silo somewhere. They're actually doing it with others, and it's a journey that everybody's on together, and it's very collaborative in that way. Like, of course, we're the teachers most of the time, but oftentimes we learn just as much from all our clients as they're learning from us, because they all come from so many different industries.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, for sure. I see we've been filming for a while. We've been talking for a while here. Can you tell us more about where people can find you, about your what is it, like your consulting website, all that stuff? Can you let the audience know more about you guys so they can easily get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So they can find us on YouTube at Entrepreneur Expat. The other thing is, like I mentioned earlier, we've got a free gift just special for your audience. Where's your Lambo horse?
Oh, he's
off
screen right now.
We gotta bring him back in.
You want to You want to go get him real quick?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Hold on.
We'll tell them about what we got. There he is.
There's
Yeah.
Lambo. That's fantastic. Just
So
slowly coming in.
So our special link for your visitors is actually entrepreneurexpat.com/Lambo, and that's where they're going to be able to get their Make Money from Anywhere guide, where we talk specifically about how to transition whatever it is that they're doing right now into a business that they can run remotely from anywhere in the world. So if they go to entrepreneurexpat.com/Lambo, they'll be able to download that, and we'll put it here.
What?
He's excited.
He wants to know if he's getting paid for this,
There you go. Yeah.
Like, no, you're not getting paid, bro. No, you're not going to get paid. All right.
We're gonna give him some extra grain.
Okay. He goes.
Yeah,
He goes.
hay.
The only grain he wants is in form of liquid beer. So.
Caramba.
Yeah, In that guide, people are also going to learn about the 5 top remote work skills that they could literally do from anywhere in the world. Because what's great about remote work, like what we're doing right now, is that you're not tied to any specific economy. So, for example, right now, a lot of our clients are Canadian and American, but now our Mexican friends are starting to ask us, hey, can you do consulting for our businesses? Can you do lead gen for us? So we're like in the process of figuring that out with the attorney. But when you have those remote work skills, the most high valued ones, which you're going to learn about in that guide, you can make money from anywhere in any country because those are universally seen as very high value all around the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's so nice of you guys. You guys didn't have to do that. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm sure the audience is going to be very, very appreciative as well. For your gift and everything you guys provide, because you guys have a similar situation over there with your channel where you're basically right. You guys pump a video out almost every day, and you guys are just giving them all kinds of free information on how they can maximize these skills and all this other stuff. So, man, thank you guys, for being so nice in providing this guide, for the audience out there that is, definitely gonna find it very handy. And now I'm going to ask you guys in the audience a quick favor. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you guys enjoyed this interview and everything we did today, please go and check out their channel. I'm going to provide a link down below. I'm going to provide all the links, the link that they were suggesting. So the link that they're providing for the guide, plus their website, plus their YouTube page and all that stuff. So you can go over there and give them some love. Go subscribe to their channel. Give them a like on their videos and go check out to see what they have besides the free guide. Go and check out all the stuff that they have over there, and hopefully they'll be able to help you guys out as well, because they're awesome, and I'm so glad that we got in contact with each other, and we've been able to have this awesome friendship, and again, I was able to interview you guys for the channel, and introduce you guys to everyone out there in the audience. So, do you guys have any final words, any last things you guys want to say before we head out?
Yeah, no, thank you, Jose, for giving us the opportunity to speak to your audience, and likewise, we're gonna have to visit you in person soon in Merida, because that's definitely on our list of places to go here, maybe next year.
Yeah, thank you so much, because we know you must get pitched. I mean, I know for a fact you get pitched all the time. So the fact that you allowed us to speak to your audience, we're honored. It really speaks volumes. And, we look forward to helping as many people as we can, because, it's the number one question we all get asked, which is, great, I want to live in other countries, but how am I going to sustain myself? So thank you so much for giving us the platform to talk about these things. And like Justin said, we still got to make a trip to Merida. We haven't been out there yet. So we'll have to hang out in person and find some Cuban coffee somewhere in this country.
For sure. Don't worry. I'll get you some Cuban sandwiches, some Cuban food. We'll go out to the beach. We'll have an amazing time, all right?
Good, because I miss all that. I love Mexico, but I miss the Cubanness of Miami sometimes.
Yeah, this is why I love it out here so much too, because again, it's very similar in the good aspects, you know what I mean, that we miss from back home. Like again, the beach, the weather, and all that good stuff. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And again, you already know the deal. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, but please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything, please stay awesome, and also go check them out, okay? So please check out the links below, and hopefully, they can help you guys out, and you guys can find their content as entertaining as mine, or maybe even more entertaining. So either way, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one. So, all right, guys, bye.